It's one thing I love is like those workplace karma stories. Those stories where, somebody, is doing something wrong for a long time and think they're invincible. Then all of a sudden it catches up with them and you get a chance to see it catch up with them. So satisfying. Well, this next story I got for you is one that falls along the same lines as that. And I'll get to that right after the intro. Okay, so this story takes place a few years ago, several years back. I just gotten a job at this one company. I had been laid off for a while, so I'd been out of work. So I just got back to work. I was happy for to be back working again, and having a job again and making money again. So I get this new job, and I start, and this particular company that I got hired with, they had gone through some hard times, and they were on the upswing. So they were back to replenishing the workplace with all the employees and all of this kind of stuff, and a lot of new people were getting hired every day. But also, what had happened is, being that they had gone through a stretch of having like some bad times, they had a lot of people in the past that had been let go, laid off, or even left the company when they saw the signs of things not going well for the company. So me, I get hired. I get hired as an IT person. And one of my first jobs, one of my first tasks there is to go through all of the old employee files and the people that aren't working for the company anymore. I have to go through and I have to, file their terminations and all of this kind of stuff, put it in the right things, do the proper backup and stuff like that of all of their files and emails and all of that kind of stuff. I just had to basically process the terminations. And, I really liked the job. It was fun. The place where I worked, it was very enjoyable environment to work. The culture was good and everything, and I felt like I kind of hit the jackpot with this position. Another thing I had to do was, as far as when new employees come, I had to go through and process all the new employees as they came in. Also, get them on all of the different systems and set them up with computers and all of that kind of stuff. And one day we got this new employee. He had moved to the city from another city, and he had been laid off for a while too, but he was back. He was happy to get back to work. So this guy, he was finance. He was one of the people that dealt with all of the finances, a reconciliation of different bills and paperwork and all of that kind of stuff. And seemed like a pretty good guy, but he was kind of needy. So every once in a while, as far as IT, you deal with all different types of people, and every once in a while you get those needy people. And it's one thing to be needy, but to be needy and have like a bad attitude about it. He was one of those people. He was needy and he always had a bad attitude about it. Now there was one other IT person that worked there. He had been the one person that lasted with this company throughout the years when they was going through all of their downtime and stuff. Now this IT person, he was the one that typically dealt with the new finance guy that was hired. So I didn't hear much from him, but I know that there was a situation because one of the finance software that he had to use was something that was, they was really big on security. So they had this software locked down on this one server, and whenever only several different people were able to actually access this software. And when they did, they had a special login to remote into this server. And then once they get into the server, they also had to have a special login to log into this particular software, because this software accessed all types of, financial files and stuff like that. So they had to keep the reins pulled tight, as far as who can access this software. Well, this particular guy, his job was at least once or twice a week, he had to go into this software and pull down some kind of reports and file some kind of reports. He had to do it like about 2 times a week. But the thing about him, whenever he had to do his report, he was always calling the other IT guy because he couldn't remember how to get into the system. And we thought it was pretty simple. We had a link on the desktop where he clicked the link and log in. And then once he log in, then he has to start the software and log in there. The other IT guy, dealt with him mostly. He set him up on the system and everything. But then every time he had to do reports, like about maybe twice a week, he would call that IT guy and tell him that, he's having a hard time getting in the system. He can't run the reports, but he was always really nasty about it. He was always had like an attitude when he called, and when the guy went to help him, he always gave the guy a hard time. And I didn't witness this for myself, but I used to always notice that the other IT guy would come back, after he's finished dealing with him, and he'd always be so upset. So after about, he dealt with this guy for probably about 2 weeks, and then decided he was done. He's not dealing with this guy anymore. He's your problem. And so he handed the guy over to me. He was like, from now on, I'm the one that takes care of this guy when he have his issues. So I didn't mind it. I was just happy to be working there. I was glad to get back to work. Things was going good for me. I was happy to be there. The first time the guy had a problem, he called me, and I go over there, and I'm like, what's the problem? He tells me, I got to run these reports. I need to do it now, and I can't get into the system. I can't stand this system. I can't get into the system, So I'm looking at him, and I was like, okay, so what are you having a problem with? And basically he's like just complaining a lot. So I just go through it. I walk him through it. I was like, okay, click the link there, sign in. And then once he signed in, I was like, click that link there. And I was like, sign in. And then he signed in, and then he got to doing his work, So I thought, that was the end of it. I was like, that was easy enough. So about 2 days later, he had to run his report again, and I get another call from him. So I go over to his desk, and I'm asking him what the problem, and he's the same thing, really agitated. He's talking really aggressive. Just really hard to deal with person. Had the same problem, and I'm looking at him, I'm like, it's not that hard. How is he still having problems with this? So I walk him through it again. And he gets in and he does his work. So this time I try to make it a little easier for him. I created a little chart. I went and did some little WordPress, PowerPoint magic, and I made a little flow chart for him. And it just has list out all of the steps of what he needs to do when he log in, with pictures and screenshots and everything. And I made a nice little sheet of paper with all of the information there, just so he can have something to look at when he goes to do it. So I went over to his desk and I was like, yeah, I made this for you. I was like, this should help. And I taped it to his monitor. So it was, you have his monitor right here, and then the chart is like right off to the side of the monitor. So with that chart, it had screenshots, it had step-by-step instructions. That should be something that should be good enough for him to get into the system. It didn't help though. I just kept dealing with him, every time. And then he just got worse and worse as far as his attitude whenever I went to help him. And, it got to the point where I started feeling like the first IT guy. I was like, oh my God, this guy, what's up, So one day I go over to him, and he kind of caught me off guard a little bit. Usually I keep my game face on, and I stay like the nice person or whatever. But this particular time, he called me over. He had an attitude, right off the bat, and he kind of caught me off guard. And I asked him, I was like, why is this so hard? I was like, it's simple. You got the instructions right there. I was like, do you even follow the instructions? Which normally I wouldn't, say anything like that. But that particular day, he just caught me the wrong way, and I just pretty much asked him, why aren't you following the instructions? It's right there. You should be able to get it. Well, he looked at me and he was like, you know what? He was like, it's not hard. He was like, you're right. It's not hard. I can do this. He was like, I knew how to do it without even anybody telling me the first time. And just while he was talking, I saw somebody, some other person walking behind, just out of my periphery. I saw somebody walking by, somebody I seen walking through the plant before. Walking through the offices before. But I never knew who the person was. I'm new. I didn't know everybody was there. So he's walking by, and he just kind of like takes a look at me, and I'm helping this guy, and I don't pay him much attention. But anyway, the finance guy, he just, right after he says that, he just gets really agitated and just start talking, real loud, and raising his voice and everything. And he's telling me about how he don't want to know how to do it because it's not his job. He's a finance guy. He's not an IT guy. And he was like, unless you do something different with how we access this software, I'm going to call you every single time to come log me in until you fix it, And I kind of looked at him and was like, well, eventually, you're going to have to learn it because, this is your job. It's not my job. I'm here to help you if you need help. But if you don't need help, you need to do it, So, this went on back and forth. We kind of gotten, arguing a little bit about it. And finally, I was just like, okay, you logged in now. I got other stuff I need to do. So I'm going to leave. So I leave, and then I don't hear nothing from him for about a day or so. I don't think he had to run his reports again anymore that week. So that Monday morning we come in and everybody gets notified that there's like some kind of company meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 a.m. So we go, at 10 a.m. come and we go to the company meeting. We wondering what it's for, So we sit in the company meeting, and then all of a sudden they introduce the CEO of the company, and this guy walks out on stage and he starts talking, And I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, who is this guy, I'm just looking at him and I was like, he looks so familiar, but I don't know who he is. So this guy comes up on stage and he's, on like in the front of the meeting area, and he's like giving a presentation about the company and telling people about how proud he is of the work they've been doing. And so right at the end of his presentation, he started talking about what he expects from people. He started listing out things that he expects from people, and like kind of giving like an outline of your role here. And one of the things he said was, this company, you work for this company, everything you do here is for the company. He was like, I don't want you to look at your position as the only thing you're required to do while you're here. Even if that particular task is not what your position title is, he was like, I expect you to do it. He was like, if it's something that involves what you need to do, I expect you to do it. When you have a job, it's your responsibility to take control of that particular task and do what you need to do to get that task done. And I thought it was kind of odd that he brought that up, but I thought it kind of fit with this guy that I was dealing with, because he, his whole thing, we get in this argument talking about how he's going to always call IT to log in because he's not happy with how the finance software is set up. He don't like to have to log into different systems. He wanted to be just installed on his computer directly so he can just use it whenever he wants, however he see fit. So right when this guy was saying this, I thought about it. And I was like, oh, I know who the CEO is now. I saw him the other day when I was helping this guy last. The CEO was that guy that walked behind me. So I figured, he must have overheard that conversation that we were having that time. And maybe this was like his message to everybody to know that, because he heard that conversation, that meeting's over and I go back to work. And then as soon as I get back to my job, I was like, I'm back there and I'm working on the different paperwork and stuff like that, the different little, tying up all of the network accounts and all of that kind of stuff. Like, what I have been doing pretty much every day since I've been there. And all of a sudden I get an email, and the email was a new termination, which, since I've been there, I've been working on terminations the whole time, but I hadn't had a new one. And then when I click on the email and look, the termination was for that finance guy, who said that, who was telling me that he was going to call IT every time he needed to log into that system. I guess when the CEO, walked by that day, I guess it didn't really sit right with him. He didn't like what he heard. He didn't say nothing right then, but he sure says something now. So then next thing you know, this guy is walking out with his bags and stuff packed, being escorted out because they let him go. And that goes to show you got to watch what you say around people, because you never know, especially at a new company. You get into a new company, sometimes you got to learn the company more so than trying to focus on what you want yourself. But that was a pretty, of course, I don't want anybody to lose their job, but that was kind of one of those, I was like, oh, wow, I can't believe this just happened. But sort of like karma, and you get to watch it firsthand, This was not the ideal situation to see it, but, a lot of times when you see things happen like this, where you see somebody who is taking advantage of a situation or not acting right or mistreating people, and then they get theirs, a lot of times, you get a little bit of satisfaction out of that. But yeah, that's my story for the day. I'm glad you listened, and I hope you come back. I'll see you next time. You made it to the end of the video. Thank you for watching. While you're here, why don't you check out that video right there, or maybe that one right there. And while you're at it, go ahead and click my image in the middle there and subscribe to this channel.